Elevate your fragrance game, but how? There are several ways to do this. First, buy high quality fragrances. That's pretty much the simplest way you could do things. I'm not saying go out and buy a fragrance that's $500. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying specifically high quality. And high quality doesn't necessarily correlate with a high price tag. So the thing about high quality fragrances, you pretty much just have to make sure that the fragrance house who is producing the fragrance is doing a good job. You know, they're not just throwing high concentration alcohol into a bottle with a tiny drop of fragrance and calling it a day. Because there are many discount fragrance brands that say try to emulate higher class fragrances, but they're just really cheaply made. They don't smell that great. They're very faint. They don't last a long time. They're just not good. You know, they might smell something like the fragrance they're trying to emulate, but for the most part, they're not great. So, I mean, tip number one, stay away from those. It's simple. Just, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. If you see some sort of alternative to Dior Sauvage for $20 and they say it's exactly the same, it's not going to smell exactly the same. It's going to be weaker. It's not going to smell as good. It's not going to have that richness, the texture, the character that the real one has. And I mean, then there's the question, you know, I can't afford the actual fragrance that I want, so I have to get this alternative, right? This cheap alternative. Not necessarily. I tend to, in general, I try to steer clear of, fragrances that specifically mimic another fragrance. There are some that do it well, don't get me wrong, but there are a lot that don't do it well. So I prefer to find original fragrances that they're their own thing, that smell similar to the fragrance that I want, and that they're cheaper. For example, this is Le Mans from Coty. This is a very old French fragrance that came out in 1927. This is a drugstore fragrance, like $20 or less, very, very affordable. However, it smells, at least in my opinion, almost exactly like Chanel No. 5, which is $100 or more, right? So, yeah, I didn't get this from some discount site saying, oh, this is the perfect alternative to Chanel No. 5. This just exists. This just came out in the 1920s after Chanel No. 5. And that's, you know, it's its own thing, really. It's a little bit different, of course, because it's not trying to be an exact alternative, but it's close enough. It's a little bit, you know, not quite as long lasting, but you do get what you pay for. It is a cheaper fragrance, but it still performs pretty well for what it is. It's very pleasant, very feminine, and all that. So this is just one example of, you know, you can find a fragrance that is its own thing, but just similar to, say, a more expensive fragrance. Then, once you know how to avoid low-quality fragrances, you can also learn how to better take advantage of your current fragrances. So, you know, say you have a perfume, how can you wear it better? So, it all comes down to how you apply it, really. And I always like to recommend, before you put on any fragrance, put on a little bit of lotion or oil on your skin, let it soak in, then put your fragrance on. Because fragrances like to stick to lotions and oils rather than just bare skin. It kind of acts like a spider web. The lotion acts like a spider web for those fragrance molecules from your fragrance. So that'll help it last longer. So, you know, it spans throughout the day and doesn't just disappear after a few hours. Besides that, make sure you put the fragrance on in the right places. Best place is the neck. Anywhere on the neck, even the back of the neck. First of all, the neck is a pretty warm place on the body, and warmth from the skin helps the fragrances to just smell better, have more prominence in the room. Because then, of course, the fragrance oils will heat up and they'll be more noticeable. Besides that, it can also help with longevity and the scent trail, of course, especially when you apply it to the back of the neck. When you walk away, the fragrance is going to be behind you. You know, it'll leave a nice scent trail behind you. You could also, of course, don't forget about your wrists. Inside of the wrists are always nice. Because that, you know, especially if you talk with your hands a lot, you'll be moving your fragrance around the room. It'll be more noticeable. And it's good for longevity as well. Some people put it on their shoulders, on their clothes, in their hair. Basically, any region of the upper body is nice because people are, you know, when you talk to someone, they're gonna be talking here. Their face will be in this region, and that's where they'll smell your fragrance. So it can actually be noticed. So you also, final tip, you also want to know how to properly pair your fragrance with certain occasions. Of course, there are fragrances for, say, going on a date, going to the beach, casual daytime fragrances, that sort of thing. So knowing how to pair your fragrance to the occasion will help you elevate your fragrance game, because you know you just match the situation better. You feel like you fit in more with the situation. It's pretty simple. For example, date night evening fragrances are usually heavier. Maybe they're smoky or spicy or even a little bit sweet. Daytime fragrances are usually lighter. Then of course there's hot weather fragrances, cold weather fragrances. Usually for cold weather you're gonna want something heavier and warmer. Hot weather summer fragrances, you want maybe something citrusy, floral, you know, light. So it really depends on what's going on in your life, what situation are you going to be in. Of course, there are some fragrances that are kind of very versatile, good for all occasions. But having multiple fragrances for different environments, that's always nice to have, because you'll be more confident, you know what's going on, how you're going to smell, all that. So those are pretty much the main things for elevating the fragrance experience. If you have any questions or opinions about this, you can always leave those down in the comment section below. If you liked the video, leave a like, maybe subscribe, and I make videos throughout the week, so stick around for those.